Hello and welcome once again to the 2013 World Mixed Doubles Curling Championship from the Grant Harvey Centre in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. A draw 20 matchup between New Zealand and Japan. I'm Dean Gemmell, and I'm joined by the affable and insightful Sarah Carlson.
Thank you. I don't even know what that means, but thanks.
For our feature game, a Group B matchup between New Zealand at 4-1 and Japan at 3-2. The Mixed Doubles Championship is divided, 27 teams divided into 3 groups of 9 each. Here's a look at Group B, where Austria sits atop at 5-1. New Zealand also with just 1 loss. Japan at 3-2, needing this win today to stay in the mix. The latter portion of Group B, we see Australia, USA, Denmark, and Slovenia still in search of their first win. The teams today on the ice: New Zealand, the male player is Hans Franlob, and the female player is Natalie Campbell.
Lineup for Japan: Hiroaki Kashiwagi, also known as Hiro-kun, and Yumiko Sato.
The game will begin in 1 minute. You can do your slide.
As you just heard, the game will begin in 1 minute, and the players can do their slide.
Yes, they can. You see the stone colors. New Zealand will be throwing the red stones. Both teams had a draw to the button before the game. New Zealand came up closest, so they will have hammer. And we are going to see Japan throwing the first stone. Of course, mixed doubles is a little bit different from normal curling. You have teams of 2 rather than 4, 1 male and 1 female. You throw 5 stones and you have 1 for each team pre-positioned, so 6 stones in total. Team with hammer will start off with 1 just behind the button. Team without hammer will have a center guard, and the players will throw either the 1st and 5th stone or the 2nd, 3rd and 4th. They are also allowed to change position, and Japan is one of the teams that seems to be doing that. Hiro-kun with the first stone of the game here. They will be playing 8 ends rather than 10 in the normal World Championship.
Yumiko Sato came out to sweep. Hiro dropped off to call line. Unfortunately, he's going to wreck on the front guard. And wrecking on that front guard when you don't have last rock is less than an ideal result. He didn't move the guard too far over, though, so at least they retain that center guard.
Yes, but early chance for New Zealand to get 2 in the rings, and in mixed doubles you are not allowed to hit anything, not even your own stones or stones in the house, until the 4th stone of each end. So Natalie Campbell can really put some early pressure on Japan if she can sneak a good one in here, top 8 foot maybe.
Top 8 foot, keep the scoring area larger rather than the freeze. Looks like this is all there. I think it's going to finish for a freeze or slight bounce. Certainly a good stone. The only problem, however, is that if Japan plays the same freeze, suddenly New Zealand is trying to score 2 right around the button versus if they had left that top 8. Of course, we'd also perhaps would like to see teams entertain the idea of playing the tick on that guard after the miss that Japan had and opening it up and leaving themselves with corner guards. Comes Yumiko Sato with her team's 2nd stone, her 1st of this end.
And she needs to play a good freeze here. Even if coming down was maybe not ideal for New Zealand, it does mean that the opponents have to make a tricky one.
And bouncing off, just as in traditional curling, bouncing off that one is never ideal. So now Hans Franlob has a good opportunity to push that Yellowstone back or freeze right into that pocket. Hans has a busy schedule this week, doesn't he, Sarah?
He sure does. He's actually playing 2 World Championships in 1 week.
Simultaneously.
Of course, there's also the Senior World Championship going on here in Fredericton this week. So Hans participating in this one and in that one. And he's got a 4-1 record in both, I believe.
He has probably the most wins of anyone in the competition at this point. Cumulatively, he does have the New Zealand senior men's team does have Dan Mustapik along with them as a 5th player. So they have another experienced skip.
He had prepared well, going to the gym plenty before he arrived in Canada, and he actually said it's been beneficial. He goes in to play seniors and his draw weight is already perfect from the mixed doubles.
There's a different surface next door, but it's quite similar. Of course, they're used to in New Zealand to doing a little bit of extra effort to get a lot of curling in, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. Not a lot of facilities around, so you're going to need to travel a fair bit.
And Hans actually lives in Auckland, so he has to fly to either Dunedin or Naseby, the home of the 2 clubs in New Zealand, in order to curl.
Bit of a better result there for Japan. That's certainly a stone that they can use. But New Zealand still sitting 3.
Are we 3?
They are 3. They could still make a play on that yellow as well. They could try to get just inside of it.
Yeah, if they guard, I mean, Japan can still get to this from both sides.
Hans likes getting the corner freeze with the intern. They could still get to that and play a tap and roll half a rock under that guard. Would be a good result as well, I think. But the freeze is certainly a good play. Do want to get to the inside, though. Can't leave this on the high side. Hans was born in Barrie, Ontario, Canada. Told me he grew up curling at the Humber Highland Club and the Boulevard Club in Toronto, 2 clubs that Canadians will know aren't there anymore, actually. Over curling just a hair. He's going to get to the nose of that, or almost to the nose of the New Zealand stone on the button.
I think Japan is left with, they're going to need to try and squeeze this yellow one through the hole.
They can slash it in there pretty well, though. I think they can slash it in and be second shot for sure, if not shot. Through that hole. Looks like, what, about a quarter of a rock?
Yep.
It could sit right there. Great result here. We leave them shot.
Let's see what she can do. Yumiko Sato for Japan.
Early call for sweeping. She doesn't want to be tight here. Definitely wants to hit this on the high side.
Looked a little tight on release. Can she hold this enough?
Seems to be holding it. Just knows it. Now New Zealand could really play ahead here and put a lot of pressure on Japan early.
Yeah, are we still 3?
I think
the angles aren't too good for Japan. They could definitely get rid of those.
Just kind of throw it in the
Or
same spot.
one.
I just threw it almost.
I mean, if New Zealand were even to hit that, just cross that top one a hair,
Yeah, I like that.
and even though they'd leave that Japan stone there, Japan would have a hard time using it. And they might build up a chance to get 5 or 6. Right now, all of New Zealand's stones are still in play. 3 of them they're lying 1, 2, 3, and 5.
I think this is a guard, though. Do you think?
Yeah, I think they elected to play the guard. I think it will. I think it limits them to scoring 3, but
Plenty of weight, Nat. Probably
certainly 3 to start the game wouldn't be a bad way to get things underway for New Zealand.
Now, in a regular game of curling, if you say limit to scoring 3 in the first end, I think you'd still be quite happy.
I think the difference with mixed doubles, though, is we have seen teams trade 3s, 4s, and 5s. So when you have an opportunity to score a bundle, you really want to take advantage of it. And that, unfortunately, I think has left Japan with an opportunity to Hit the red onto the yellow and squeeze that yellow into the close to the button.
It looks a bit tight though.
Yeah, it does look tough. Depends how it gets through that hole.
And Hiro Kun might need to throw some weight at this.
Yeah, I don't think he can hurt himself by throwing it hard. You can certainly get it in there and make it difficult for New Zealand to score more than 2. Although it's not going to come off that lower yellow all that well, is it?
I think we're about to find out.
I think he has to get to at least nose on his own red. Ideally, he'd cross it just a hair. Which he may not have the room to do by that guard. Look at the World Mixed Doubles Curling Championship banner. And now a look at Hiro Kun.
Wants to hit a lot of this, but definitely don't want to be in the guard.
Oh, he just papers the guard. And didn't get quite the action that he was hoping for and that you pointed out he probably wouldn't get. Maybe with a little more weight that might have carried on through, but
New Zealand sitting 4. No, sitting 3, sorry.
3.
And how are they going to get a 4th one in?
Well, they could play that out turn through the hole. I think they can play the out turn and come right down to shot rock and the button. That will make it tough for Japan.
Well, New Zealand has hammer. So
I like the draw here. Just freeze one on top of that one on the button, or even leave it full 4. Certainly like to be 4th shot and bring the 4 into play. Yes, thank you, Sarah. This is the final stone of the end.
and a chance to score big for New Zealand.
I think that's the first time I've done that this week when I adjusting to the different.
Oh, but, well, they are switching positions, so it might be tricky to follow. She'll be really wide and heavy with that one, so they will settle for a 3.
They'll settle for 3 after I thought they were setting up for more. My apologies. I think they committed to the 3 once they threw that guard, so I still sort of think they had a chance at 4 or 5 if they had played a different shot with Hans Franlub's last.
3 it will be, and we have a couple of other games going on. Do you want to tell us what
I sure will, Sarah.
the scores are?
Let's work our way over from Sheet A. On Sheet A, we've got the Czech Republic versus Australia, and that game is 2-0 after the first end for the Czech Republic. Australia takes the hammer into the second end. We have Denmark and Hang on one moment.
Slovenia?
Slovenia, yes. Denmark and Slovenia. Slovenia up 1-0. Denmark has the hammer playing the second end. And over on Sheet D, we have France versus the United States. The United States captured 2 in the first end. They lead 2-0 playing the second end. France has the hammer.
And now since they scored, it is New Zealand to get us started in the second end. Natalie Campbell was heavy with her previous draw, so she's going to need to bring the weight down a bit here.
Sliding with the stabilizer and smoothly moving it over as she begins to sweep.
Yeah, one of the tricky parts in mixed doubles is you have to sweep your own stones, or get your partner to come up and sweep with you, like Hans Frauenlob. Should find the weight better, over curl slightly, but that certainly is in a more usable position. think the call is here to come down to their own for Japan.
Miko Sato. These two teams know each other a little bit, or Hans Franlob knows Hiro Kun a bit. I think they've played against each other in Pacific Championships in the past. They were chatting before the game got underway. That's going to slip deep.
We have seen a change of positions in the Japanese team. Do you think they're just taking turns?
I think they're just trying to throw me off, so I lose track of the stone count, which will not happen again. Comes Hans Franlob, throwing the out-turn draw, saying he's got plenty, and she's saying he's got room. So
it's not the best combination, maybe.
He may not be as heavy as he thought he was, though.
No, stones tend to come down once they start to break, and they normally break big here.
So not quite the freeze he was looking for, but it certainly makes it difficult for Japan.
Fourth stone, and Hiro would be allowed to hit. I thought that was the call first, but maybe they're looking for the inside freeze onto that red.
Well, they could certainly play board weight and get to the inside of that. Sit right there. Maybe even corner frozen on the red would be an awfully good result. Hiro Kun's first of the end. His team's second. Unfortunately, doesn't get to the inside of that.
On New Zealand, with shot stone all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Demonstrating the importance of keeping your stones in front of the tee line. There's our Twitter hashtag, Sarah.
WMDCC 2013. Feel free to post any questions you have about mixed doubles curling. So New Zealand just going to guard the situation in the house here. That yellow is the most usable stone for Japan. So Hans Franlob is to make sure that using it is difficult. Maybe looking to freeze the inside of it. Make sure they don't angle it back onto their red. A nice shot right there.
Really nice shot. Terrific angle for New Zealand there now. And Japan is going to, I think, have to consider running something in here or rearranging that pile at the front of the house. I think they could play a hit on the rock that Hans just left corner frozen on their own. Save their shooter. Still leave the situation in the rings that they have to deal with. The situation in the forefoot, but I don't think the slash is there. I think it will just go directly onto the red and leave it on the top of the button, even if they just paper the guard. So it looks as if Hiro is going to try to rearrange that configuration on the side of the house that where Hans Franlob just corner froze.
Yeah, and I think you have a point here, Dean. If the red one's going to stick either way, you might just want to throw it and make sure that your shooter will stick around as well. If he tries to slash this, he's going to lose his shooter and the yellow.
Japan still has 3 shots to play in this end. So he's going to straight peel the guard.
Yeah.
Not the worst way to miss it.
No, not the worst, but Certainly replacing that guard is good for New Zealand now.
Yeah, not that many stones to come.
And it's not that difficult for them to put a guard here. They're not exactly guarding a single stone like we've seen is difficult to do.
Yeah, we've said that a couple of times. We'd like to see teams, when they're not really getting the angles right in the house, just start hitting as soon as you're allowed, because you don't have that many shots to clear up any mess.
Japan could have hit one stone earlier in the end than they elected to. Han's trying to get every inch of curl out of this. I think he kept sweeping it even after it stopped.
Well, he's been to the gym plenty, so he will have the power.
Got no lack of energy or enthusiasm despite playing in 2 events concurrently. Well, now
Double available.
That double is available. Slash.
To sit too.
That guard needed to finish, at least touch the center line, I think. Probably just left that guard a little deeper than he was intending, or a little higher, I mean, than he was intending. So, a little bit high side, not much, just a fraction. Should leave his shooter there and split off the shot rock that's biting on the side of the button.
Yeah, and Natalie Campbell is then going to need to do something good in order not to lose 3 right back.
Yeah, if he makes this, they'll lie 3. And Natalie will probably be forced to play some sort of freeze to get out of the end, or conservative play would be to hit something, but we'll see what Hiro Kun does here. First
he
off,
doesn't have a very active release, so this is bound to get a bit of curl.
They called the sweeping off momentarily, but they needed to go on that the whole way. You're right, it did look like it was curling with a not as positive release as we've seen from others on this ice.
And with a nose hit, Japan could run that down for the double, so New Zealand gonna guard it, and then it might actually be really tricky for Yumiko Sato to get a stone in there to score.
Yeah, it's really quick, Natty.
Yeah.
Han's suggesting it's really quick down this path. Probably have been practiced. Each team gets 6 minutes to practice before the game, plus the last stone draw. So there have been a lot of shots played from the outside in.
Just good communication from Hans there. Natalie has been a bit heavy on her draws, so a good way of telling her not to do that.
Yes, rather than the don't be heavy line.
By itself, Dad, by itself.
This might
By itself.
actually
By
be a
itself.
bit heavy. Better make sure they don't angle it up for Japan. I don't think they're going to do that.
No, I think it's going to grind up. I think all Japan has left is a draw to get enough of that button to score 1.
Another 6, 7, 8 feet away. Has to move that other extra rock. Great throw. Good shot. Right at it.
New Zealand had a national playdown with 10 teams entered, and they earned the right to represent their country at this World Championship by winning that event.
Do you think they had qualifications for the seniors as well
I
at the same
imagine they
time?
did.
So that Hans is used to doing both.
I'm not sure if they ran concurrently or not. Maybe that's... I tend to think no. I didn't think to ask that, to be honest.
Last stone of the second end, Yumiko Sato for Japan really needs the button here.
She's got a lot of curling to do. It will finish if she's close on weight, but that looks a little strong right now. Starting to come down. It's got some curling to do to get to the button, though. Might finish big, but not enough. Does put it right on the tee line. Just got a little wide with it, I guess. So New Zealand steals 1, moves out to a 4-0 lead after 2 ends of play here at the World Mixed Doubles Championship in Fredericton, New Brunswick. A Group B matchup between Japan and New Zealand.
A really important game for both of them. If New Zealand can pick up a win, they will be looking good for playoffs. Japan need one to be able to stay in the mix.
There's 2 stones being positioned by the official. Start of the end. You'll notice that the position stones have a black X on them.
Yes, they are being switched around to make sure that the stones wear evenly. Maybe also to make it hard for players to pick their favorites.
There's Natalie Campbell with her first stone of the end, the first stone of this third end. She plays out of the Naseby Club in New Zealand. That club was built in 2005. The club in Dunedin was built 2007, 2008. They weren't quite sure where they, but somewhere in that area. So they have 2 clubs in New Zealand. And of course, the interesting thing for them is that their curling season, because they're in the Southern Hemisphere, their curling season in Dunedin is just getting underway.
So this is actually their warm-up event.
Yes, this is their opening spiel of the season, but they did say the club in Naseby is now open year-round.
Hiro Kun started curling in '92, curls in Nagano.
Natalie Campbell's miss certainly presents an opportunity for Japan. Now they have 2 corner guards and last stone in this end.
Trying to get the rub off here.
Rub off just short of the ring. Certainly splittable later, but they're going to play the... New Zealand will be left with this freeze.
Well, even if they freeze and Japan split 2 in, it'd be looking quite good for them.
A little more, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, freeze or top 4 here is certainly a good result. Hans is a skip and seems to take on a lot of the ice reading duties. Started curling in 1974. He's 52 years old.
It's there.
This line looks good. Can finish it just a bit. Really close down the scoring area. Perhaps over curling just slightly, but certainly a good result. Japan's calling for the, draw in front of that. I would love to see them make a play on their yellow here.
Yeah, just tee backring weight and split them wide would definitely put a little bit more pressure on New Zealand.
They could punch the yellow that's on the center line just outside the rings behind the corner guard and roll their shooter over. And lie 1, 3, and 4. But they don't agree, perhaps.
So Yumiko Sato, she saw some curling on TV and decided she would find a place to try it. She started in 2010, so she's had a very quick career to make the national team. Fast development here.
I think they're going to want to leave this open enough that they could use it. Well,
Good weight.
Good weight. Good angle on that red stone. Certainly makes it something they can use to rearrange the 2 on the forefoot.
Yeah, we don't want to line it up. We don't want to line them up.
And Hans is definitely right. You don't want to line them up.
Yeah.
I think that because Japan isn't in these first 2 ends, hasn't rearranged their own stones all that, made any attempts to do that, it's left New Zealand with opportunity to simply guard and feel pretty comfortable about guarding.
Mid-long.
Call was mid to long, mid to tight now.
Maybe just a bite. It won't bounce, I don't think.
Looks like it's going to be a tight guard, just beyond a 2 though, a 2 guard. If we go by 1, 2, 3 for guards, 3 being tighter to the rings, 1 being closer to the hog.
Can Japan find the inside here, or will they need to they find the side of their yellow, or need to open up the guards?
I think they're going to have to open it up. And again, it's making the call of moving that yellow, and their previous one look really as savvy as it was. Up here, we've made the right calls all week.
Yeah, we never miss our shots either, so
No.
it's easy to make the right call.
Yes, and as we discovered when we went out and practiced on this ice after an evening draw, we didn't make all our shots, shockingly.
I found that very shockingly, actually. Have they changed the call here?
I think they have.
Or are they just tapping everything?
I think they're trying to top their own yellow, but I don't know what kind of angle they're going to get on it. I don't think they're going to get a particularly good angle on it.
And if they don't, they will just keep making it difficult for themselves.
They're going to have to at least find a way to move that red off the button. Move the New Zealand stone. Well,
Get another one in there, but it's not in the best angle.
yeah, they're 1, 3, and 4, I think. Are they? I'm not quite sure who's shot in there. Looks like it's yellow's shot. So they're, yeah, 1, 3, and 4. But finding the angle to remove the red stone that is second shot is going to be difficult. Japan has 2 shots to come in this end. Hans Franlob with his last, his team's second last shot of this end.
You're really counting this now, making sure that you're on the right stone.
And I can't see the other end from our vantage point, but I think I'm spot on nonetheless.
I wouldn't expect anything else.
Oh, I proved I wasn't so accurate in the very first end, so.
Well, after you promised, I'm just going to trust you.
All right.
Japan with 2 stones to go, if we're to believe Dean. And they are going to need to find a way to score more than 1.
They're looking at this in-off. Now they're looking at maybe they could peel both red guards on the right-hand side of the sheet, try to make a play on those, make that double peel.
Yeah, but then they're only going to have 1 stone left, and the red one doesn't look like it's going to go anywhere from that side.
Yeah, it would be difficult to pick that out. So I think they are. Are they playing this in-off?
I think Hiro is actually eyeing up the red slashed on the yellow guard. And maybe try and get the yellow on the left-hand side and spill it into the rings.
Well, we'll see what results here. The angles are certainly not to the advantage of Japan right now. The way the yellow and the 8-foot and the top of the 4-foot is staggered.
No big rotation here, so you're going to need
to be on the red guard, the high red guard.
Oh,
just needed to.
They would have loved to get some action on those yellows and rearrange them a bit. Just by.
If you set up really high.
If I set up really high, because they take
still got
this
that
shot.
straight back. But I think it'd be the straight back. I mean, I don't think they'd make anything, do they?
I don't think so. That was what I was asking.
Yeah.
I think they're more likely.
Well, you know what? They could get it really thin. I still think if you get there, you take it away.
Okay.
Well, yeah, and there's tolerance
opening
there.
it up. Okay.
There's tolerance on the wide side.
Mid tight.
Yeah, mid tight. Yep.
So Hans would like to get behind that yellow guard.
I think no matter what they do, Japan is looking at trouble.
Yeah, I don't see how they can move that red. Even if New Zealand doesn't throw this one, I don't know how they move that red.
Our question is it yellow or red that's shot?
It's tough to tell from our angle. Looks like an awfully tough measure. Might be more clear down on the ice because they don't seem to have looked at it all that much. I'm sure New Zealand would be content to concede one here too.
Just keep it clean. Line's good.
So that's exactly where they were talking about placing this. Can you run that in if you're Japan? I think if they are sitting shot, then they might as well just be happy with scoring one.
I don't see how they improve on that.
Gonna run the yellow onto the yellow top forefoot and try and squeeze out the red.
And try to defy physics, I think, unfortunately, for Japan. I don't think they'll get any drag on that yellow. Or enough drag.
Last down of the third end. Tricky one for Hiro-kun. Calling Sato off. And they're not really going to do anything.
One yellow. Yep.
And it was one yellow. So Japan scores one.
Good try, Hero.
So after 3 ends of play, it's New Zealand 4, Japan 1. New Zealand will take last rock into the 4th end. 8 end games here in mixed doubles.
Yep, certainly a comfortable position for New Zealand. 3 shots up and hammer in the 4th. But we have seen stranger things happen.
Yes, we have seen a few strange turnarounds, or exciting turnarounds, let's call them that.
Let's call them exciting turnarounds, because they really have been.
Teams down, world champion Switzerland, a game we did was down 6-1. Gave up a 5 to Hungary to let them back in it, tie it after 6 ends.
We can also tell you that Australia is leading the Czech Republic 3-2. Denmark is leading over Slovenia 3-1. Slovenia has hammer in the 4th. Finally, France and USA still battling it out, and USA with a 3-2 lead there. France with hammer in the 4th end.
So New Zealand gets the hammer for the first time since the first end, after stealing in the 2nd and conceding 1 in the 3rd end.
Like that, Nat? You like that?
Natalie Campbell, she's a farmer, sheep and cattle farmer in New Zealand. Started curling in 1996.
Whoa.
And once again, she has the opportunity to put pressure on Japan after that first stone.
How's the weight?
Sounded like a release, might have been a little in-out, judging from Hans's reaction to it. Talked about going to the back one at one point. Starting to finish, though. But
That will leave quite a big wall for Japan to draw.
yes, and if Yumiko Sato can get one into this pocket, certainly going to close down the scoring area. And then what would we like to see?
A peel on the guard, maybe?
Peel on the guard or run that guard in and try to create some action? Of course, New Zealand must be doing more than a few things right. They're 4-1. So we'll see what they play, see how it works out for them.
Seems like this one's a bit hot as well, but if she can just find the line. Well set shot. And will do the job of closing the scoring area down.
And New Zealand is content to play a freeze here. Japan's frozen on the red stone at the back of the forefoot, but that's directly in front of another Japan counter, so.
Might need a bit in that, has the line.
Hans Fronlob saying it needs a bit of sweeping for weight. He's asking for help, I think. Here comes Natalie Campbell out to join him. Both working on it.
Oh, and won't really get it past the guard.
Won't get it past the guard, and we'll cover that collection of stones now. Cover the Japanese stone that Yumiko Sato placed there one before.
Yep, so maybe now is the time to be thinking you should have peeled the guard. Situation would have been different.
If Japan can weld one into this pocket on the button.
Could maybe start to look good for stealing.
Stealing one or even two. Miko Sato with the intern on the way. Looks like it has plenty of pace.
She was very good at finding the T-line here in the second end. Right in this spot.
Starting to come down now. They need to work it hard to be second shot.
Still not a bad result.
No, certainly a shot that makes it difficult. Let's listen to the Kiwis talk this through.
We could try pushing my one. I just threw straight back.
Yeah.
About back 8, back 4.
Yep.
And just push it into this direction towards
Yeah,
the
just
yellows.
push it in here.
Just push it in this way. If we clip the 3, that's okay. If we go there, it's great.
Okay. Okay.
Back 8, yeah.
What would you say about tapping this with back 8? Is it difficult?
I think as soon as you bring the quieter weight in on these long
She
tops,
probably has to be more like back 12. Now I have to push it a long way.
Have that
It's a
eye.
bit less ice.
I'd agree with that. But you bring the ice becomes difficult, and you only have
Yeah.
yourself to manage it as a sweeper. So I would probably favor running this in with bigger weight.
Especially if you look at the scoreboard, they are 3 points up. They know they don't need to get really too cute with anything and be really. It's not the end of the world if they don't keep their stone. They just need to open things up.
So he thinks he has back 12. He looked at the length of this raise and decided back 12 was required. I'm not quite sure he has back 12.
Yep. Down.
Oh, gonna clip the yellow instead.
There's a hole that needs to be dealt with here for Japan now, but
That's better, yeah.
it's better for a moment. Japan could play a tap here as well.
They certainly could.
Try to really put the pressure on in lie 2. Down 4-1, they'd certainly like a steal of 2.
I think they are going for the guard though.
Well, the guard will.
It'll close things down, but they could do what you say, Dean, and just come down the out turn here and push the yellow down onto the red and sit 2. Keep the shooter there.
Keep the shooter as a guard in the 8-foot. Miko Sato will throw the intern here. Weight's been close all game. If anything, she has had rocks over curl.
It's not going to be the case right now, though. This
Actually,
was just a bit heavier than they thought.
so that's
And that will make the run back harder.
pretty effective guard, really.
Oh, gee whiz, Natty. We're pretty lonely back there. We got 7 there, I suppose.
It's not the ideal situation to be running these yellows in if you're New Zealand.
We can try it if you want. I mean, it's a bit risky, but I mean, I could try to double the 3 out. Still across and lose the 5.
Well, I was just wondering if we take these ones for now.
Well,
I was thinking that.
I think the angles are bad. I think we'll just wind up pushing the 4 straight back here.
You think? Okay.
We got to do something with them.
I don't know. Can we get over here?
Well, with the outturn we could.
Not with a heap away.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't think we could with enough
Okay,
weight.
maybe not then. I don't want to leave them lying too, that's all.
Yeah.
I'd almost rather give them 1.
Well, do you want to guard it up? We either head it or guard it up, I think.
Yeah. I think we do now. There's pretty much danger everywhere.
Okay.
Don't have a good shot to. Every shot is high risk. I think what they really wanted to do as they stared at those rocks was to time travel back until Hans Franlob's first. But since that option's unavailable to them, they're going to play the guard. This really seemed as to be a likely scenario once they played those hits with those taps with less weight and didn't peel early.
Yeah, once again, it's easy to be wise from up here, but I think you're right, Dean. Probably looking at giving up 1 here rather than scoring.
So they're content to concede 1 at this point in the end because they're concerned that making a play on those high yellows will only leave Japan lying 2, and that's certainly a valid concern. It'd be easy to punch one of those yellows onto their own red. How bold will Japan get here?
I'd like to see them take a little risk.
Yeah, down 4-1. I mean, a steal of 2 is certainly more a big steal. From that perspective, the hole looks certainly doable. It is a bit staggered, though.
Yeah, from up here it looks tight.
Yeah, from that angle it definitely looks tight, and from our view at the side of the sheet here, it looks fairly tight. I wonder if they could draw and get enough of the button there to sit 2 with the intern.
That looks tricky too.
It's a long way to finish, but it will finish hard there.
With that ice, are they looking of playing a tap?
Maybe
Yellow, yellow.
hoping they just paper the guard and yellow, yellow on the high yellow onto the one of the yellow in the 8-foot. We'll see what Hiro Kun likes here. Kiwis just noticed that there's some other Kiwis up in the booth here watching their game.
Well, there sure will be a couple of Japanese fans, so good for them to have a couple too, as that's really close.
Really close to lying 2, but unfortunately he's left New Zealand with a...
They're drawing. Could they actually... Maybe not. Thinking if they could hit that really hard and bounce it over, maybe squeeze the one on the button out a little bit, or push it.
They could play the round the world on the
on
the yellow on the right and the 4-foot, catch a bit of their own and come around, but I don't know if that would be for more than 1. I guess it might be if they stuck it, but I think they're content to draw for 1 now. They have looked at that last shot, the way it opened up is a bit of a gift because they didn't really have a shot for 1 until that shot was played. But I think Japan was right to try to make a play to lie 2. Now Natalie Campbell needs the button here, full button to score 1. She certainly has some rocks to come to in the back.
Looks like a lot, Nat.
Yeah, I think it might be.
It looks like a lot because I think it is a lot.
Never.
Yeah, it's always the danger when you know you have backing, you give it too much weight, and then you might not get the curl you need. But you won't.
1 yellow.
So 1 for Japan here in the 4th end.
So
And the score after half the game is played is New Zealand 4, Japan 2. Players will have a short break and we will be right back with highlights, so stay tuned.
That's all right, Eddie. Oh, yeah, yeah, it doesn't work. Sure. Yep. That's all right. 2 up at the turn, that's not bad. Well, we just
If I
have to,
get my first shot on you, it sets us up. Otherwise, it's quite hard.
I just have to believe, you know, as long as the line's good, you know, you can sweep it in there all day.
Yeah. So if I need to pull the weight back.
Hit the line, just control, just shoot it up. I'll be holding the broom this afternoon, so you don't have to worry about saving my energy.
Yeah, sorry, I haven't been doing that anyway.
Well, that's a small miracle. It's a Photoshop, or? Is that the cold, hard country wash it down stuff? Ribs, now we're talking.
Yeah, there's nothing right.
Usually in the wind. You know, Mark, Mark.
In the first end of this game, New Zealand off to a really good start and a tricky draw to score 4. Natalie Campbell a little bit wide, and they will have to settle for the 3. In the second end, Japan has a really tricky draw to score 1. She needs the button, won't really curl enough, and New Zealand will steal 1 to take a 4-0 lead. In the third end, Hiro Kuhn has a very difficult shot. Won't quite make it, but will score their 1 to get on the board. And finally in the fourth end, after Japan tried a difficult double tap, Natalie Campbell has a draw for 1, but she will be wide. Steal for Japan to make the game 4 shots to 2 in favour of New Zealand. As we are back here with the second half of the game. Hiroaki Kashiwagi, or Hirokun, as he asked us to call him. Said it was easier, and that's what his friends call him.
It is easier as well. For us, although I thought we had Hiroaki pretty much dialed in, Sarah.
We'd like to think so. I'm not sure he agreed.
His back button, Nat.
Seems like a really well-liked player.
Freeze is okay.
Yeah, he's played Hans Fraunlob a couple of times, and they seem to be good buddies.
They seem to enjoy playing each other from their conversation before the game. Natalie Campbell with her first here in the fifth end.
Looks hot, Nat.
Back four?
Yeah, it looks like plenty. Is it going to push it out?
I don't think so.
Okay. Stay with it then. Yep,
Does
go
look
ahead.
like plenty of weight.
We are seeing players with a tendency of being a bit heavy rather than light. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. That's a terrific result, actually. They hit and roll right on top there. Push that yellow far enough so that New Zealand is lying 2. We have seen a lot of players heavy here in this draw, more than we did last night in the Russia-Spain game, where the first 4 ends of that game in particular were so well played by both teams, with both teams always making sure they were a couple feet light if they were going to miss.
It could be, well, it's the ice thing. All of the players are not used to playing on fast ice like this, but also a mental thing. You see stones down there and you just think it's okay to come down to them rather than maybe being too short. But we often say that being top 8 rather than T-line is going to be more usable. Yumiko Sato probably need to be all the way down to the reds here now if she wants to put New Zealand in trouble.
Brooke has some curling to do, but Yumiko Sato's stones do seem to have a lot of late finish. And that's what this one's doing. Just by the guard, actually. May actually over curl. They would have liked to have stayed on the other side of that red stone.
Yeah, that could be squeezed out.
I'd like to see them try to squeeze that out with the out turn. Rearrange that pile just a bit, a little bit more separation on the red. But they're going to play the freeze. This is one where I think some players might be well advised to have a look at this house before they throw it from the near end instead of from the far end.
Yeah, we find that it a lot of the times makes communication easier if the players are close together and they can both see what's going on in the house.
Weight looks close. A little bit short.
In a very usable position. I don't really know what Japan's going to do about that.
I think they're going to have to just ignore it at this point. I don't know. The angles do not set up well for them for moving these rocks, as they're indicating they might like to do.
Hirokun not really decisive about the ice here. So Sato will just correct him from the hack. Looks like they're playing maybe hack board weight to try and move things around. Be really good if they at least could leave their shooter in a good position.
No matter where they hit that yellow, unfortunately, it's going to spring off to the side. So they are, you're right, Sarah, they do have to make sure that they leave their shooter in a good spot.
Need to get by that red first.
It's not a great spot, unfortunately, for Japan.
You're gonna guard that side.
New Zealand looking at a guard or another draw.
I'm not crazy about those angles now, though.
No.
We could go make a play on the ones that Hans just played.
I'd like to move the 3, but maybe not.
At least he's down there now, so maybe we can hear what they have to say.
Maybe guard. Are we?
I like the guard.
Okay.
Or if you just check it, that's good for
Certainly electing to play the more conservative guard tactic more often than not, the New Zealand team is. Can't blame them, really. It's paid dividends. They're up 4-2. That said, I wouldn't mind seeing them, like, as you said, the intern tap on the one they just threw. Certainly available, and a chance to lie 3 and open up that scoring area a little bit more.
Yeah, move the angle on the yellow. That is the one stone that could remove the red from the button.
It could even make a play on the yellow that is in the top 8 and try to sit right there.
Okay. Bounce yellow.
It's got to come over. Yep, yep, yep. Okay, good shot.
Hans is another one of our tall curlers in the mixed doubles.
Oh, we have a couple of
Basketball players.
Yep, at least one, and one that would, and a couple other ones that would qualify for height. Don't know if that's good or bad when you're a curler. I'm hoping it's not very good, because then I won't have a chance ever.
Nor would I. Seems curling to me is one of the great things about our sport is that it isn't body size dependent. You can be tall or short. Our current men's world champion, and your countryman Nicholas Edin certainly not on any basketball teams either, is he?
Well, no. Well, I think if you asked him, he's going to tell you that he would make an excellent basketball player.
Excellent point guard.
I never watched basketball. I don't know what they do. I'm not even sure what Japan is doing.
Speaking of not knowing what to do.
Yep, this is a tricky situation. Are they running the red onto the yellows, I believe?
Seems like it would make more sense to run their own yellow in, the one that's next to the red. Pretty solid weight from Yumiko Sato. Close to hitting it on the nose. We'll see what happens when she does.
Ooh,
and
well.
Might have left New Zealand lying just 1.
What do you like?
I think New Zealand can now play.
I think we still have to guard for now. Although it's not really.
Well, if we guard, we're getting 1 then, right?
Yes, that is true. If you guard, you are getting 1.
Can we get it to the second shot? I guess just, yeah.
Yeah, we can. Although this isn't really going anywhere.
Not now, no.
So we could play this.
Well, we could play this now, couldn't we?
I think we could, because I don't.
Push 2 and push
If
this
we
thing.
push this over a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think
back
just
4.
back, yeah.
They
back
can
4.
slash this in here with some weight too instead of back 4, I think, and without a whole lot of risk. But they're going to play with back 4 weight and try to push the Yellowstone that's now second shot.
As long as they push it out all the way through the 8 foot, they'll be fine, but it's just harder to control where you hit it with T weight rather than if you just play the hit.
If they played it with a little more weight and they hit it thin, they might catch the back half of the higher Yellowstone and still get some action on that other yellow.
The weight's not bad.
The weight gets the not bad endorsement.
The question is the line good?
Line looks close. If anything, it looks like it might be a little thin, but now they're going hard. Leave it on the high side.
Gets a good tap there to
shot.
sit 4.
Yes, terrific shot. Pushes it far enough. Great rock.
At least one excited fan here, clapping.
And now Japan is facing a challenge. May have to look at slashing their own in.
No, just to limit the damage.
Yeah, just try to cut New Zealand down at this point. So I think they're trying to slash this yellow in and get some action on two of the red stones at two of New Zealand's counters.
Probably the wisest call. There's no way they're going to keep New Zealand from scoring, really, so they might just try and do the best they can.
If they hit it almost straight back, they should. The red counter that's right on the button, well, looks like it will jam in the one in the back four. They could leave their yellow, though, perhaps for a second or third shot. A lot of weight here.
And
from Hero.
Big whoa.
Well, he is left New Zealand lying 2.
Are we 2 now?
Yeah.
He could slash that red again.
Yeah, I think so.
Is there a shot for 3 is the question? I'm not sure.
Well, if you, I don't think.
Slash the high red again. You're right. It's almost difficult to not get it onto the yellow, isn't it?
Yeah, you would at least get 2, even if...
Go only taking one though.
Well, we pushed that one back.
If they hit it on exactly the right angle, it goes directly onto the yellow. And if they hit it a little too full, I guess, or too thin, it would catch the back red, I think, the red that's on the button, and still knock
Instead of bumping
the
this way.
Japanese yellow stone far enough to lie 3 or 4.
I don't see how we can.
Well, the only way to come in this way is just sort of like there.
They haven't looked at it, though, have they?
Hans was pointing at it.
So yeah, so yes, that's that thing. That's your
And
right.
do I still can I only get one?
Well, okay. If you're happy with 2, let's start again.
I think so.
Okay.
Because I don't think the percentages on those
Yep,
ones are very
no, that's
high.
No, don't throw it away. Make a play.
Sarah and I pleading for the play. We just like to see it.
I don't...
Tough shot.
I don't actually think that, you know, they're going to score 2 even if they don't make this perfect.
Right, I think they
Because the
could.
yellow one's going to go.
I think the yellow one goes if it's touched at all. And yeah, I'd really like to see them try it. But they are going to be nursing a 6-2 lead at this point into the 6th end, and perhaps they're content with that. We, however, do not like to offer commentary on shots that are thrown through because they're made almost all of the time.
They are always made.
Well, this one looks a little short.
Well, that is count as made even if it hits the bumper. I think so.
So they throw that away.
Score 2.
Collect 2 in the 2nd end. Might be time for some updates from the other sheets, Sarah.
I was just going to ask you to do it, but I'll be happy to, of course. USA has a 6-3 lead on France after they scored 3 in the 4th end, and France got 1 back. So they also have hammer. Denmark, in a tight game with Slovenia, leads that 3-2. Slovenia with hammer. Finally, Czech Republic stole 2 in the 5th end against Australia to take a 6-4 lead on Chile. We just will never get enough of exciting curling going on here in the Grant Harvey Centre, will we?
No, I don't think so. So New Zealand up 6-2. Scoring 2 in 5 in an end that looked to us like they might have been able to make a play to score more, but the 2 is certainly puts them in command of the game.
Bit tight line now. How's the weight?
Wait, good.
Yeah, a little bit for line then. Hard line. Hard line.
Bumping.
Hard line. Hard line. Okay, you're by now. Yep.
Might want to keep sweeping it even if you're by. And risking an over curl.
Is that what you would suggest if you were in the rings? That patiently? You just might want to keep sweeping that even once you're by?
Maybe, but that was because I thought it looked a bit shorter than it was. I think with the over curl, maybe leaving it top 8 might not have been a bad idea to try and keep it on the center line. And Hirokon calling the Sato off this. This is definitely not what they were hoping for. They need to build something that will enable them to score at least a couple.
Hans Franlob has an opportunity to lock one in there and make it very difficult to remove the two reds.
Wade's pretty close, Nat.
Hands gotta come.
And on the fourth shot coming up, Hiro Kuhn is going to have a decision to make.
Line's great. Bring it if you need.
What do you think his decision should be?
Well, I certainly think he has to look at playing some sort of hit to move things around. Now, typically we think of hitting as more conservative, but I really think in this game at this point, the more conservative play, the one that makes it more difficult for him to score the multiple point end that he and Yumiko Sato need at this point, I think the more aggressive play would be to run something in. They have 4 rocks left. If they don't rearrange the rings here, very difficult to see how a multiple point end unfolds.
He is, however, going to play the freeze.
Yeah, I'd like to see them run that red in and try to get some action on the red on the left-hand side of the screen. Let's build their shooter over for a corner guard. But we'll see the draw.
Looks like it's got weight enough to tap. Not a bad result, actually. Gets rid of the backing and sits in front of them.
Yeah, has at least freed up those red stones by pushing his own back, and saving it at the back means he may be able to use it later. Bring it into play as a counter.
Line's good.
About the same, bit wider line though, I think, Nat. Bit less weight.
Okay. Needs to come. Let me top
Needs to curl a bit, but Hans Franlob would like to go for weight.
Line's good.
Line's better now.
Yep.
Hans told us he came over about a week earlier and spent some time in Toronto practicing before they came to this event.
That would make sense. You don't want to have that type of jet lag when you start playing 2 world championships. You really want to be ready.
Good call, Nat.
Japan could maybe make both of these red go. I mean, even if they lose the yellow one on the T line, that would be fine. They could maybe have 3 stones hanging around. Hiro Kuhn maybe going for the freeze again.
Hans was also telling us that in New Zealand, the Naseby Club open year-round, and they get a lot of people on day trippers. It's in a part of the country where people do day tripping through, and will stop in just for recreation and rent a sheet of ice and throw some stones during the off-season, their curling off-season, the summer months, being in the summer, winter in the southern hemisphere, the opposite, of course. Of course, the people of New Zealand are known for their love of all sport, so it's not surprising that they embrace curling. And all of a sudden, Japan is looking a pretty good situation, even though the angles on those yellows still aren't really great.
Yellows means there's no danger though, unless they can get to the 4.
If they can block off this in-turn,
Get to that.
That's what I mean. That's the only danger rock now.
if New Zealand blocks off that,
Yeah, I think it's a guard, Nat. I think if we can get to there, well, they can
It's
clip
got to
it.
sit out a wee
It's
bit,
gotta sit out,
otherwise
you're right.
because they only have to play back
Yeah,
button.
you're right. You're right. So what do you like?
I think it's got to be up here. Do you like that?
Okay. Yeah, even longer so they can't run it in.
Yeah.
I think Natalie was correct there. Coming over to the center line would leave that tap available. So the A on the Cox and Palmer, one of the sponsors of this event, a law firm here in Fredericton, would be a good spot for it. In turn on the way. So he's calling for a 2, a mid guard, which would be, oh, mid tight would be right on the A, I think, of Cox and Palmer, don't you think?
I think you are right.
I think Cox and Palmer should invite me up to their suite after that rapid fire mention of their name I've just given them.
Well, he will be just on top of the A, getting the job done.
So the angles with the outturn don't set up well for Japan, so he did take away the tap that was worked for them.
And they might actually need to run this. If they do, could leave themselves sitting 2 or 3.
They can run the red in and just clip that yellow. They could either run the red in that Hans just placed there. I think that's why he was hoping to maybe tuck just a little bit of it. But I think if he tucked too much of it, the way the ice curls, the tap would have been available.
And it's not an easy run.
No.
It's fairly long, and there's a lot of things to catch on. By things, I mean stones.
Yes, there are no small animals or farm implements out there, just stones.
Well, unless Natalie Campbell brought some sheep.
Sheep or farm implements. So I think they run this red in and just try to clip the yellow that's at the top of the rings. They could lie 3 with a brilliant shot here.
I think their yellow one that we see on the right-hand side, I think that's going to go. So maybe
That's
just
true.
lying 2, but still that would be a good position for them.
Hirokun, in turn on its way. He's after it.
Big push, and I think a bit of an outward motion. It's not going to help him right now.
Oh, and he didn't clip that other one either, which might have helped him a little bit.
Put it back, Natty.
So they're going to, New Zealand is going to replace the guard with Natalie Campbell's last and their last stone of the end.
Might be looking at a New Zealand steal here if she makes this good.
I think Hirokun was thinking a little too much there about jumping up to sweep that rock as he let it go. I think sometimes when you're playing mixed doubles, it's easy to let the pace of play dictate your shot making just a bit, and you sort of get a little too active perhaps and want to chase after a stone like that. I've seen some teams on peels, they just let them go, assuming that sweeping on peels isn't going to make that much of a difference. I think there is some value in getting after them, but not trying to get after them so quickly that you affect your throwing motion.
No, I think that's what we've seen in, well, when we're talking about the fact that we want to see players close together and talking over their shots. We sometimes see them really far apart, maybe in a hurry to throw, and then they hurry to throw, and all of that just can affect how well you're actually going to play your stone.
He's going to want a little chap off here, bounce it just a bit. Is that tap available?
I think it is. We've seen Yumiko Sato get some really big finish on her stones here.
Yeah, both the female players in this will get some big finish on their intern, so if she can get her intern moving here, it would be an advantage. It has been moving. I think it is there, even though it's over buried behind the guard that Natalie Campbell just placed. The rock will move a lot. And Yumiko Sato's intern has shown a propensity to finish. Like with that ice, I'd suggest they're playing something about hack.
And he just gave her less size too.
Doesn't look like a lot of ice, does it?
I think back ring would be the most you can throw at this. Last stone of the 6 then. Difficult tap for Sato to maybe score 2.
They're on it now. They must be close to the guard. Off and on. Got to get very tight to the guard. Big finish here. Will it finish enough?
I
It's close.
think it will.
Oh, enough to score 1, but that's all. Really good attempt. Had to get very tight to the guard. I think in the end, that was only about back 4, back 8, I guess, wasn't it? I don't know if they could have, with hack, I don't know if it would have finished enough.
No, I don't think so. Good attempt, and after 6 ends, it's New Zealand 6, Japan 3, and we have 2 ends to go. Gotta say, it's looking pretty good if you're in New Zealand at the moment. Hammer, 2 more ends.
And outside of the...
Get 3 or 4 there. Yeah, just that little one on the back, just a little tiny freeze, right? They just stop the momentum. She was great.
Hans Fronlob offering praise about that shot to his opponent. He thought it was going to be better than that.
I'm not sure that helps Japan at the moment, though.
His kind words?
Yes. Well, if they are friends, I guess it's always good to have a friendly game.
It's always easier to offer up friendly words when you're up by 3 as well, isn't
Yeah,
it?
definitely telling your opponent that, you know, your shot could have been nice, but it kind of wasn't a good result.
Encouraging is far easier when you're comfortably in the lead. We can update the other sheets. On sheet A, we have Czech Republic versus Australia, and the Czech Republic up 7-4. On sheet B, we have Denmark against Slovenia, and Denmark's out to a 6-2 lead. Slovenia has the hammer playing 7. And over on sheet D, we have the USA up 9-3 on France, playing the 7th end, with France holding the hammer in that end. There's Yumiko Sato's first. A little bit short, but certainly a better position than deep.
Well, we can go here, Nat. I think here.
So what, top 8?
And New Zealand throughout this game, once they've secured a counter that's difficult to remove, has been content to guard, whether they're just guarding 1 or 2. So that strategy would certainly serve them well here, and an end in the 7th end when they're up by 3. Scoring 1 here would, I think, win the game for them. We've seen both teams reluctant to play the shots that might open up the big scores of 4 and 5 as a possibility.
Yeah, I think, well, the New Zealand's, they kind of like the Lils. They're going for a lot of guards, and I think it serves them well when they're playing a team that's not really opening things up. I think they could get in some trouble if they were to be playing a team that likes to throw peels when they can.
Like we saw the Russians do last night against Spain, where they threw a lot of big weight shots to open it up. Natalie Campbell at 62% for the tournament so far. We saw as she was throwing that stone. She's pushed it back. Certainly opens up the scoring area a little bit, but leaves 2 red New Zealand stones both in the back of the house.
And not really anything you're going to steal on, so after this you might... Well, we maybe would like to see them just have a good look at the scoreboard and just make sure that they don't end up in a big mess.
I can see that no matter what Japan does with this stone, I think Hans Fronlob and Natalie Campbell should be thinking about peeling that centerline guard. Let's see if they have a look at that. This looks heavy and right through the hole. Even leaving it at the back isn't all bad. Now I would definitely be peeling that guard.
Yeah, another thing where you got to think it's a mental thing for Japan. You know you have some backing, so you accidentally put that in your head and then put too much weight on the stone.
We can push.
You can take it out.
Yeah.
You can take it out.
Back 12 though.
Think it's
Well,
a good call?
They're making a play though on the yellow in the top 4 and trying to push that out with back 8 weight. So
Well, certainly taking the guard would be fine.
it's either fearless, reckless, or conservative. What do you think it is?
I have to Google the words to see what they mean first, Dean.
It's not bad.
Well, like I always say, you're doing a far better job doing commentary in English than I ever would in Swedish.
That's what I tell myself sometimes to just for comfort.
Are they going to make the peel? Yes, they're going to make the peel to some degree, at least the tick.
And roll in the stone on
Roll
the
into
edge of the 12 foot there. Not a bad result.
To life. 4th shot, so they're not happy with that shot, and if I were them, I'd be quite thrilled. There's Hans Fronlob throwing 70% for the tournament. I'm not sure what certainly makes it difficult here for Japan to steal now with only a corner guard. And one rock just biting the top 4.
Yeah, that's actually a great shot.
Really is. I mean, I think the key here is just to make sure that Natalie Campbell on her last has a shot, relatively simple shot to score one. If you score one in this end, you've won the game. As long as you hit through the eighth end as well.
Definitely, and now they're even, you know, they have 3 reds lying around. Japan's going to need to be absolutely perfect, or they're going to risk giving up a big house.
And shaking hands before the eighth end.
A little tap made from Hirokun.
There's a double if you want to play it.
Yeah, the double would probably be a wise call too, not leaving any yellows in front of the tee line.
I do like that though. Something that through there.
You like that?
What do you like?
Well, double's probably going to jam the back red anyway, isn't it?
I don't think the double does jam, but might jam.
Even if it does, though, it will open up the scoring area, not leaving stones in front of the tee line.
Yeah? What kind of weight?
What do you think comfortable throwing?
Like back 8, back 12 like I just threw?
Back 12?
They're certainly content to leave some yellow stones around in a game when they're up 3, rather than rip this through the hole. So Hans Franlov's going to try to tap this back with back 8 or back 12 weight. There is a possibility to jam it back there. The hole actually looks a little smaller from
About back 8 now.
when it's not on the monitor. Saying he has back 8.
Need to go. Don't want to jam this on the back one. And he
He's
will
gonna put
find
it
the hole.
correctly
Really
right through
nice
the hole.
execution.
Very well executed. Leaves the shooter there. Great shot. Just got by that red. Hans and Natalie, I think, are 2 of the more supportive teammates we've seen, though. Seem to do a good job of keeping each other positive throughout the game.
Yeah, and it seems to be the game we've seen. It seems to be really important. There are not. It's complicated to mix doubles because you are only 2, so you might not have that many teammates to comfort you, keep you happy. And if one gets a little frustrated, I mean, that's 50% of your team, so it's bound to create some frustration all over.
Of course, in traditional curling, there's probably one teammate you can really not like all that much, and it's not going to make that big a difference. If you don't like your teammate in mixed doubles, there's no one else. You're stuck.
You are stuck, so being friendly and positive sure seems like a good strategy.
That was the strategy that the Norwegians told us they were going to stick with against the Russians last night.
Well, we're going to see them practicing that later again tonight.
Magnus, as I've got now, not Marcus.
Yeah, you've got his name right. That's a good start for you.
I'm going to stick with that really well tonight. Here comes Hiro Kun. He's going to play a little tap. Just as I get one name right, I get the other one wrong. It's Hiro.
And that might be a really good shot.
Really is. And now these reds that are at the back suddenly create some
Play the round
problems.
jamming.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Looks to me like
Back through.
they can
Just-
punch it straight through, but they could, the double will probably jam.
Just punch it straight through and leave your red on top of the yellow. That'll still be there. Might not be a bad result.
And you should be lying 2 after that if you the red counter on the left side of the forefoot and the top forefoot should be shot rock, and the red at the back, if you punch this through cleanly, would be second shot. Japan would still have one to use in the top of the forefoot, though, if you just play it straight back instead of play for the double. I think the double with some real pace might jam, but might still spill it far enough.
Oh, some pace coming our way here.
There's the double made. Well, not the double made, but I mean, he picked his own out of the back.
And they are sitting 2.
Sitting 2 a little different than I thought they might, but sitting 2 nonetheless. lost that one. But the yellow rolled far enough to make the red in the back 8-foot second shot. Hero does have some ways. Hero and Yumiko do have some ways to get out of this, though.
What would you like to see them do?
Well, I think that intern hit and roll is available. I think even the intern draw is available, the way this ice finishes. That rock in the top 12, the redstone, essentially a guard. If they were to get really good line, they could get through there. And if they were to rub off the red that's in the top 4 foot, might not be too bad. But the hit and roll might ensure that they lie at least shot rock, and force Natalie Campbell to face one with her last. What do you like here, Sarah?
I like whatever you like, Dean.
I
We're only two, so I'm trying to be friendly as well.
I can hardly believe that.
No, that's why we brought you on, because you're this smart guy. And I believe you're absolutely right. And it looks like they have the ice, maybe another hack weight coming down here. The roll in certainly is important. They don't really want to give up any more points to New Zealand at this stage of the game.
Hero started with the ice in a position that made it look like the draw, but then it kept creeping in as he put it down. So I think it is a hack weight tap.
I think he does that a lot of the times. And it's, you know, maybe one of those things that he doesn't want to, he just wants it to stay friendly as well, so he'll just adjust in secret.
She's close here, but finish it. No, he's just going to, oh, I guess he's switched to playing for the double.
And going to leave a draw for 2 to really close this game for New Zealand. Just need to touch the 4 foot here, Natalie Campbell, to score 2 and take a 5-point lead. Last stone of the 7th end on its way.
Feels alright.
Looks pretty good. Looks like it's here though. Easy. Yeah, a little bit.
Feels all right, but not touching it. On it now though.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
And it's not quite all right. New Zealand will score 1.
1 red, so the fact that Japan starts with 1 counter in the rings, even a 4-point end is not something we haven't seen, is it?
No, we've seen it more than once even.
Can give an update over on sheet D. USA 10-3 over France. They wrapped that up by scoring 1 in the 7th end and shaking hands. And on sheet B, we have Denmark up 6-3 with the hammer on Slovenia, playing the 8th end. And on sheet A, we have the Czech Republic up 8-4 on Australia, playing the 8th
really
end.
Bounced back in that game.
Yeah, they were down 4-2 at one point, and came back with a 2 of their own with the hammer. Stole 2, stole again.
As you saw, the reigning world champions, Martin Rios and Nadine Lehmann, looking comfortable up in the stands. They are undefeated so far.
Giving us the thumbs up. They've looked comfortable on the ice, that's for sure.
Yeah, they were in a bit of trouble yesterday, but just kept playing and kept scoring and scoring and scoring, and ended up winning that one too.
A wobble there for Natalie, but she recovered.
Might be appetite.
Yeah, never.
That weight's good.
She likes the
Mine's
weight.
getting better now, stay with it. No, look at all the weight
It's
still.
all I on its
A
own.
lot of weight, yeah.
Perhaps Hans' initial instinct was right on the weight, but the line is going to finish just a bit. Chapping off. Japan has switched the order here, haven't they?
And they keep switching. It is Hiro Kun throwing the first So that means he will also be throwing the last, maybe with a chance to decide the entire game. Maybe a bit surprised to see them come around the intern here, but it's with a good
nice
result.
Angle.
Do you want to bump that?
Yeah, just a bit. Yeah.
And 4 shots up might not be a bad idea to peel the guard again.
Get
But
the angle on it so we're straight on it.
New Zealand gonna bump.
The weight's all there, Nat.
Okay.
It's not bad, getting better.
Needs to come. Wait only. You want to come?
Here it comes.
Needs to curl a bit, starting to move now.
Yep. 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 Real hard, real hard, real hard, real hard.
Wants to keep it on the high side of that. Does over curl just a bit. Angles favor Japan. With a 4-point lead, we'll see what New Zealand plays on with their first opportunity to hit on their next one. Appears that Denmark has beaten Slovenia on sheet B.
Yumiko Sato just gonna keep creating angles. It's looking pretty good for them right now. Remember, they do need to score 4 to take this game to an extra.
Don't want to bounce too big here. Oh,
Just weld right on top of it, Nat.
And that's a tough result. Could even leave a triple.
but they're going to weld one in there again. Hans Franlob and Natalie Campbell have effectively played this way all game, so I guess why change? Certainly does seem to be a hit there that could, the exposed yellow, get you closer to winning the game.
It's all about the excitement here this afternoon.
Well, it's certainly about results. I can't argue with the results they're enjoying out in the ice right now. They're up 7-3.
Top 4.
Guess why should they change what's been working so well for them?
No, it's top. It's T. It's T.
Yep. Yep. Yep, like that.
It's going to be left just in the top 8. Seems to me Japan might want to come down and move that yellow and the red on the right side with the intern.
It looks like a good call to me. If they could get to maybe to nose, it will squeeze it out to the left-hand side.
Preserve their counter at the back. Maybe roll far enough over to sit in between those two yellow, but they don't care for our call as much as we do.
Out turn for Yumiko Sato.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes,
Just want to be careful that they're not just giving an easy double or triple to New Zealand.
yes, yes.
Japan has 2 shots to play after this one. Well, that's certainly going to be a tough yellow to remove.
I'd love to do that. If we could just push it a foot.
How much weight do you want to throw at it?
Well, T, I'd just like to push it a foot.
Okay.
It appears New Zealand is going to play a tap again here. It's not really a readily available hit for them at this point in the end, except the open one at the back. Japan is has 4 counters in there. They need 4 to score, and they have 2 more rocks to play.
So T weight and a tricky tap for Hans Frauenlab.
It's about T.
Gotta come a long way.
Okay.
Not coming
There's
at
a
all.
lot of curling to do.
Go at the back yellow one then.
Still gotta come.
Is he gonna go by it? Get by it then.
Yep. Oh, 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 no.
He's ugly.
And
Japan
Japan is
maybe
building up.
starting to look good here.
They're starting to build up a cluster of yellows in the forfeit there. This is one where I'd like to see Yumiko Sato down at the other end. They have enough time. They have 2.5 minutes. They haven't used their coaching break yet. But if they can get to the inside of this one and sit 4.
4, and there's backing on the other side and the guard here.
Big shot here. She can get to the inside and sit 4. This intern has curled on her all game. Will they be able to hold it out?
Hiro out to help.
Judging from the
Really
conversation
swinging.
of Hans and Natalie, I think it's on the front guard.
What am I doing, Nat?
No, it doesn't matter if it's going straight back. Not doing anything.
There's
I think still that. Think?
You only have to push one yellow out of there to win the game.
Third shot. Yeah.
But they're keeping this excitement going. They're not going to push anything out.
We are going to see Japan with some kind of shot to tie the game, I think. They could run their red in and just get one of those yellows out of there and essentially win the game, I think.
This way. So if you're gonna be anything white,
Okay. Okay, so just
stay
T.
tolerance is white. These things too.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what, Natty? I think we just flat out guard it.
Okay.
Now they're electing to play the
I
guard.
mean, he's got to jump off of this one.
If we can get one in there, though, they don't have much, do they?
Well, that's the thing. If you get one there, they don't have anything.
New Zealand is down to 1 minute and 45 seconds left in this game.
See, the bump is just going to leave us third shot.
Yeah. But then they can't get rid of all of ours.
Okay, so you still like the bump?
I think so, because if they play this, our one can go and they've got a shot for 4.
Yeah. Okay. So.
But if we can get one in there, they don't.
Okay. Okay. Well. So.
Hans noting the clock.
So just T-line
Still plenty of time, 1 minute 20 seconds.
Yeah, they don't have the stone. Doesn't have to be all the way down, but when the clock stops, she just needs to have thrown it.
Has to be across the tee line. Of course, they don't have a coach, New Zealand, back there to wave at them and tell them to look at the clock, but they have plenty of time here. 1 minute left at this point.
And she has taken some time at the hack, so that's good to see. Deep breath, final shot of the game for New Zealand, if she makes it.
Unless we go to an extra, which is still a possibility at this point.
Line's pretty good. How's the weight?
Weight feels good. Light, if anything.
She likes the weight out of her hand.
No, it's good.
A lot of room. We might come around to this one.
Sounds like it has some curling to do. If Hans is calling him for a come around.
Hard, Nat, go! Go, Nat! Hard, 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 hard! Hard, hard, hard! Hard, 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 hard!
They're going to
Ooh.
now. Is that intern? Can he get enough movement beyond the guard to?
The ones that Hero's just shown, he can actually use the stone just played by New Zealand to score their 4.
Yes, he can. Over the top. I don't know if he'll lie for though. Will he? Won't
maybe
his
not.
shooter spin up? I think his shooter will spin up, and the New Zealand stone in the back 4 would be 4th shot.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I don't know if he throws the intern, gets really tight to the guard, he might be able to make the shot that Yumiko Sato tried on her previous one. She made it a little more difficult with where her rock ended up. Or where she pushed the New Zealand guard to. But I think they're going to try this.
Well, maybe he thinks he can catch the yellow and push it down as well. It looks terribly difficult.
It looks difficult to imagine how you keep your shooter in a position to be fourth shot. But the fact is he has some kind of shot to throw here. We've yet to see, I guess last night we saw somebody run out of rocks.
Last stone of the 8th end and possibly
Here's
of the
after.
game.
Let's see if there's some magic here.
Nice try, Hero. Good game.
So with that, Japan, I believe, will score 1 in the last end to take the match to 7-4. Hiro Kashiwagi seemed to want to make sure that they knew that. So it's a 7-4 victory for New Zealand over Japan. Japan falls to 3-3, and New Zealand moves to 5-1 in Group B play. And Hans Franlob maybe heads over to the senior side of the things to compete with his team over in the World Seniors in the adjacent arena.
Well, why stop competing when you're on a roll? You see the final score of the game right there. New Zealand 7, Japan 4. Our next featured game will be an exciting one between Russia and Canada. That'll be at 4 o'clock local time here in Fredericton. For now, stay tuned for highlights and, of course, interview with New Zealand.
It was the same last night. We just came out hot. It's good.
Probably gonna take these off.
Yep.
Oh, he's asking for a signature.
That's the boss.
Not a chance. Where am I here?
Well, maybe we need to go for dinner.
Not sure.
Take you?
I don't know. Mine moved
I've already
the whole
broken it.
way.
Oh, did it?
Like, it would just do this. It just slid.
You're so tiny.
Well, it's not that. It's just I think that the waistband on this isn't thick enough.
Down, I guess. In the 5th end, New Zealand liking the look in the house they are sitting to, so Natalie Campbell is just going to throw hers away, bring them to a 6-2 lead. And in the 6th end, tricky tap here for Yumiko Sato. A chance to tap for 2. It won't quite make it. She'll still score the 1. 7th end, Natalie Campbell has a draw for 2.
Whoa now. Whoa, 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 whoa.
And once again, just gonna slide a bit too far. She will score 1, and with 1 end left to go, they will have a 7-4 shot lead. In the 8th end, though, a big mess of stones and a really tricky one for Hiro-kun. Needs 4. Will get 1. The game will be won by New Zealand, 7 shots to 4. That's it for us right now, but stand by for interview with New Zealand.
Let's go, Maddie. We hung it.
Congratulations on a comfortable win to take your team to 5-1 in Group B play. Your team did elect to play a lot more draws and guards than hits, perhaps, than we've seen with other teams. What sort of dictates your strategy in mixed doubles?
Well, for us, it's really about the first stone placement. When we've played together, we've looked at a lot of teams throw more hits. We've decided that us stone positioning and getting it in front of the tee line works better for us, and so we just like to go for the forefoot.
You know, for your team, playing in the Southern Hemisphere, this is actually almost like a season opening bonspiel for you. What's it like to have a World Championship as your first event of this, your first big event of the season?
You get a bit used to it coming from down south. We just play all our events slightly out of our season, but we are lucky that Naseby is open all summer, so I've just been going and doing a bit of training in the summer.
And Naseby is your home club?
Yes, it is.
Now, Hans, you're also competing next door in the adjacent arena in the World Men's Seniors. Tell me what it's like to play two different formats at the same time and have such a packed schedule.
Well, it's a bunch of fun, and it doesn't leave much time for getting in trouble, so that's probably a good thing. I know when I go over there and play seniors, I went into a game mid-game the other day and started piling a bunch of things into the forefoot, and the guys were panicking. They thought I was playing a doubles game. But the ice is actually pretty similar between the two surfaces, and it's great, and it's a lot of fun. It's a real unique opportunity to have the chance to play two things at the same time, so I'm having a bunch of fun doing it.
Well, thanks very much for your time. Good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you very much.